What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Change Agent Radio. I have Tyler Steenken with me today, and I didn't pronounce that name incorrectly. It's Steenken. Tyler, did I get that right, Tyler?
You did, Jay. You did, Jay. I appreciate you having me. Super excited to talk with your audience about different ways that agents can grow their business. So let's do it.
Yeah, dude. So if you guys don't know, Tyler has been with Cole Realty Resource. And if you don't know Cole, then you need to know Cole. But Tyler has been the director of business development over there for the past 15 years. So he knows pretty much who's doing business, how to get them to do business. And Cole has been a big part of this industry and creating leads for people for a long time now. Tyler, I'm not going to tell people about Cole. Tell everybody about Cole.
Yeah, I mean, we've been around forever, Jay. When I mean that, I mean 70 years, right? 7 decades. So prior to technology, prior to the internet, right? Folks used us for these big blue, what were called crisscross directories, right? So if you're any small business, including a real estate agent, you'd buy one of these books. Let's say you're in Miami or Houston. It'd have all the streets in Lincoln, Nebraska, where I live, in alphabetical order. I open up a directory. It'd find Patterson Street, and it'd tell me everybody who lived up and down Patterson Street by house number with their phone number, things like that. So any small business, like in real estate, if you want to invite neighbors in an open house, go open a directory, find everybody who lives on that street. You know, we were on an episode of Law and Order a decade or so ago where they said, hey, go grab the cold crisscross directory so they can find all the apartment tenants in a specific building in the New York City metro, right? So that's what we've been doing. Fast forward to where we're at now. We provide cell phone numbers and emails included with landlines for everybody tied to an address and within a specific neighborhood, right? So if you want to know everybody who lives in Pine Oak subdivision, we can tell you their addresses, their phone numbers, their emails, all that fun stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's what people need. That's what real estate agents need. So let me ask you this then, in regards to your average real estate agent client, right? What does that look like? You know, how long have they been in the business for? You know, what does that relationship look like?
Yeah. I mean, it's all across the board, right? So, I mean, obviously, as a brand new agent, where are you going to start your business, right? You should be calling your sphere, right? You should be calling, you know, relatives, people you work with, all that kind of stuff. But then who are you going to call, right? And that's where using a product like ours to go in there and just start farming a specific neighborhood, why it's so needed for a new agent just getting started. But that being said, Jay, I mean, we have clients who have been using us for 10 years, 20 years, longer than that. Because even if you're a very successful agent, then you know that you need to then grow your business. So if you're at 50 listings, how are you going to get to 65? If your goal is 100 and you have 20 more to get, how are you going to get there? Because again, your sphere and referrals are only going to get you so far. And that's where the power of a program like ours comes in to go, you know, leverage data as a way to go in there and create your own leads and create more relationships that are going to be referrals directly for you. So that's how we play it with everybody.
It's, you know, and that's one of the things too, is real estate agents, they fall into that real estate roller coaster. And then what happens is they're not always focused on lead gen. So, you know, they'll generate, you know, 20, 30 leads. And then all of a sudden now it's like, okay, well, I have to do my follow-up. And then now, oh shit, I got 2 listings. I need to service them. And it's like, okay, well, you still need to be doing your lead gen.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter how many deals you do, you still should be doing lead gen and have a source of doing lead gen. So
yeah, absolutely. And Jane, I will say even now more important than ever, because you know, the shift is happening, right? And I don't know if your market has happened yet, and everybody across the country listening to this right now, if it hasn't happened in your market yet, it's about to happen, right? And so the days of you throwing a house on the MLS and getting 10 buyers fighting over that listing are probably over, right? And getting your next door neighbor just to be like, oh yeah, I should sell my house. I can make a lot of money off of it. Like, okay, it's probably now time to step back and figure out, okay, I need to, you know, start grinding it out there. And for agents who are willing to do that, it's good news, because a lot of agents are going to drop out because it's going to be harder than it was over the last 10 years. So
exactly. Yeah. Buckle up and get ready for a ride, man. Right. You know, agents have to, and you got to be doing the things that you need to be doing so that you're not pushed out of the business. So
right?
you know what? One of the things that I align with you so well with is the approach to farming, because it's not, to me, it's not like, it's not a dirty word to where, back in the day, you have you give out pumpkins out of your trunk, and do stuff like that, or you just send postcards, every month or twice a month or something. But it's really more to it than that, and that's what I do as well. So why don't you tell everybody, your idea of farming, what you can teach them, and how you can show them, right, how they can make more money with farming the way that you can do with coal.
Yeah, no, and so I want to give the credit here to a client of ours who's been around or been a customer of ours for over a decade off and on over the years. So Greg Harrelson, he's an agent in Myrtle Beach. I did an interview with him here a couple of months ago, and he used the term community dominator, right? I just think it has a sexy term to it, right? Like community dominator. So I was asking, Greg, like, okay, how do you dominate your community, or how do you dominate your farms? And he basically says you got to do everything, right? But if you want to, it's having as many contacts with everybody within that farm for any possible way you can find, right? But the first thing is finding a neighborhood, finding a farm that makes sense to farm. So it's a neighborhood that you live in, that you go to church in, that your kids go to school in. It's a neighborhood with a higher turnover rate. It's a neighborhood that doesn't have somebody in there already dominating it, right? So do your homework and decide, okay, which farms do you want to own? Okay. And then step two is, the first thing to do is introduce yourself, right? And so, what better to do that than maybe some sort of community activity, right? So maybe it's, slushies in the park, a movie in the park, a food drive for the People's City Mission, and that you'll go around collecting canned food, something like that, that's very non-confrontational. And then you can use a program like ours, again, to go map out the neighborhood, get the 800 people that live in Pine Oak subdivision or Edenton South, whatever it is. And then you can, call all those people and email all those people and invite them to be part of that community event that you're holding. And okay, good, because I say that because it's a very non-confrontational way to introduce yourself, right? Now, obviously, anytime you're having a conversation with somebody, then you're pressing a little bit, right? So, oh, how long you lived in the neighborhood? Oh, great. Where are you from originally? Oh, do you have family back there? Have you ever thought about moving back?
One of the hesitations, and I like that, because one of the hesitations that real estate agents have is with making calls is, I don't want to sound salesy, or I don't know what to say, or I'm just afraid to get on the phones. And a lot of times because they don't know what to say, and the sources of leads that they are calling are aggressive, because they're the ones that actually are, looking to sell right then, or just were looking to sell.
Yep, and you're the 45th agent to call them this week already.
Yeah, exactly. And I do that all the time. That's what I built my career on. But the way that you're talking about is step one is, just to recap, right? Step one is
to find the farm, right? Decide what do you want to, which neighborhood makes the most sense for you to own a neighborhood. Yep. And then two is, be very light at the very beginning. So think about giving back, some sort of community event. Yep.
Yeah, value. So what's step three?
So step three is then going in and trying to figure out, different activities that are going on within the neighborhood, right? So if there's, if there is a listing, but it's not yours, it doesn't mean that you can't call around that listing, right? And still let the neighbors know that there's a new listing in the neighborhood. And if they know of anybody who might want to move into the neighborhood, to let them know, right? A very non-confrontational phone call, but once you get them on the phone, start having a conversation with them. Again, go hold an open house. It doesn't have to be your listing, but a way for you to hold an open house, call all the neighbors, invite them to the open house, right? So again, any sort of activity that's going on, let those neighbors know about it. And then, create some sort of e-newsletter. So again, Cole, we have at least one email for about 60% of all households. In some neighborhoods, it's way higher than that even. And then as you're doing community events and as you're door knocking, you're getting more emails, you're adding it to a database that's specific for Pine Oak subdivision. And now you're creating an e-newsletter. But again, guys, it has to provide value. Yeah. So It's information about like how many houses listed over the last month or 6 months, what the average home value is. Did it go up? Did it go down? You know, that sort of stuff. And yeah, some of the fluff of throwing in a recipe or letting them know about daylight savings time, that's okay. But that doesn't make you seem like the industry expert, right? It shows you that you know how to look at a calendar or, you know, read a clock. So instead, show things that are of value of as a real estate agent that not an average schmo can tell you about, right? And that is average days in the market, average price, number of listings, things like that. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's super easy. And this is what we do in our business too. It's super easy to have even just a simple MailChimp newsletter template. We use RealVolve, which we have it automated, but we do a 2-minute video each week. And the 2-minute video is, you know, depending on days on market, any kind of market update, or not just a market update, anything that could be lifestyle in the area, anything that establishes you as the authority, but also adds value that people want to see. You know, so down here in Florida last week, what we did was a new construction update. Hey, just want to let you guys know, we, you know, this just came out of the ground, blah, blah, blah. Now that goes out to them. And then all of a sudden you have that content that you can repurpose and use for your other social media postings as well. And I don't know if this is part of your thunder here, so I don't mean to steal it, but you can have a Facebook page dedicated just to that neighborhood or community. And then those posts can be curated for that as well.
Well, and that's the next step, Jay, is Facebook audiences. Now you created all the emails, you know, from Cole, and then your own hard work, grinding it out, getting emails that are specific. Again, you got to create your own database. That's Pine Oak subdivision, right? Well, now you can upload those same emails into Facebook and find your matches there and do a custom audience and create specific posts for Pine Oak subdivision. Again, not for Omaha, Nebraska. But by having posts that are specific to Pine Oak subdivision, and now these guys, what they're doing is they're getting emails from you. They're seeing you door knock. They're getting voicemails from you. And now they see you on Facebook. And it's like, oh my gosh, this guy is everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. And what happens is agents, homeowners want people to sell their homes that are working out there grinding it. Right. And they don't know that you're not doing this for all of Omaha, Nebraska, or all of Lincoln, Nebraska. You know, in reality, you're just doing it for their specific neighborhood. But they're like, oh my gosh, this guy is everywhere. He must be the best, right? By owning the mind share of that specific neighborhood. And then, you know, the next thing after that, all that stuff, you do all these things. And then the last step is, well, now you're going to get your own listings, right, from that. And then just don't, you know, we have a client of mine, Don Bass, and he used this phrase, I gotta give it to him, but just don't leverage that listing, exploit it, right? So now is the time to let all of the neighbors know that you have a listing, right? And if they know if anybody wants to move into the neighborhood, it's, you know, it's coming soon, it's just listed, it's under transaction, open houses, just sold. We had buyers coming through the house and we're still interested in your neighborhood, right? And exploiting that as a way to have as many conversations about that property.
Yeah, because if you're doing it the right way, number one, you're promoting the listing. The sellers love it, right? Number two, what you're doing is you're phrasing your language in such a way, and you're portraying the image to where, you know, look, I am the market expert here. I am the authority in this market. And in addition to that, we have all of this activity coming up, you know, on this listing. This is what can happen for you. This is the result you can get, you know, the feeling you can have. So if you're doing it the right way, that's great. I love that. Exploit it.
Yeah. Right. And then what's going to happen, guys, is what you'll see is you're going to create a lot of long-term leads, right? So you're going to talk to people who are going to say, yeah, my daughter graduates in May. And then we might be looking to downsize, right? Or, yeah, you know, we're probably a couple years out from moving. The kids are still too little right now. We're just not in that mode of wanting to move. So obviously those are leads you need to follow up with and put them in your tickler to keep on, you know, doing drip campaigns with, following up with. But what you're also going to notice is when you start doing this, you're going to come across people who are like, I can't believe you just called me, Jay. Perfect timing. Like, my wife and I decided, yeah, it's time for us to move to a retirement home.
Hey, let me ask you on the So on the calls when you're dominating your farm, how often would you say the agents that you work with are making those calls on a periodic basis? They have the farm 2 years later. How often each year are they calling through the list?
Quarterly, probably, I'd say, right? I mean, emails at least once or twice a month, right?
Yeah.
Quarterly of just like random phone calls, right? Whether through it's a community event, through, just checking in, want to introduce myself, things like that. However, it depends on how many listings you have, right? So if you got multiple listings, it's calling every time around that listing. So then you could be touching people a lot more through more touch points that way.
Yeah. And it's easy when you're doing this to add value on each one of those calls because you have a reason to call.
Exactly.
Hey, just want to let you know I got this new listing. Yeah, this is Jay. Oh, Jay, I get you postcards. Yeah, of course you do. No shit.
I remember I talked to Jeff Helms' name at an event, and he at a cocktail party. He came up and, oh, you're the cool guy, right? He's like, I just made $12,000 because of you, Tyler. And I was like, okay, please tell. And he's like, I never believed in those phone calls. I know that, my coach has been telling me to do it forever. And man, I called 35 one day. That's all I called was 35, Tyler. And I can't believe how happy the people were when I talked to them. Like they were excited to hear that their neighbors listed and sell. And sure enough, one of them saw that my listing had sold. And so they were really interested in selling as well. So it's going out there and grinding it though, and making those phone calls. You could go out there and, wait for the phone to ring, or you can go out there and, make it happen yourself.
Yeah. And that's it. So, all right, let me ask you this then. In regards to like, say this past year, are there a couple of specific cases you can think of for newer agents that have signed up with Cole and started making some calls or putting a plan in place, and what those results might have been for them?
Yeah. I mean, at least 5 times a week, I get emails from our customer success team, right? Who's following up with new customers who are like, hey, yeah, I sent my first email campaign in a specific neighborhood, and I already had somebody, already got a $1.2 million listing. I think is the one I got the other day from it, right? Of people getting excited. But yeah, so just tons of success stories. I think it all depends, Jay, on if you're making the data actionable. We have so many customers that also buy the data, get all excited about it because they see a webinar like me and you talking, and then don't do anything with it. But for example, I have a client in New Hampshire here, he had the product for 2 or 3 weeks, right? And he talked about how he has a family. I did an interview with him. He's in New Hampshire, and he had a young family that lived on a super busy street and said, yeah, we'll let you sell our property, but you have to find us a new house in a neighborhood that we want to live in before we'll sell our property. So a client of ours, he went into our product, grabbed the 500 cell phone numbers for a specific subdivision that this family wanted to live in, uploaded the cell phone numbers into SlyDial or Sly Broadcast, which essentially, guys, it lets you record a voicemail and then it drops the voicemail using servers between cell phone companies, and the phone doesn't ring. So he created a really compelling voicemail of, hey, I have a great family that lives on Patterson Street. As you know, Patterson Street is super busy. It's not the street that you'd ever want to raise a family on, and they want to live in your neighborhood because Maxey Elementary is just, a few blocks away. If you're thinking about selling and you don't want to have, hundreds of people coming through your house, give me a call. I'd love to show my buyers your property. So yeah. He did that. I was a few hundred cell phone numbers, grabbed the same emails from the neighborhood, put a subject line, something like buyers looking in your subdivision, something like that, got a really high open rate. And the husband called him back. Actually, the wife emailed him. So John Masillo is the guy, is our client in New Hampshire. And both of them are like, yeah, we're ready to we're downsizing. And I can't believe that you contacted us. This is perfect timing. If you really have a buyer, bring them for our property. So buyers loved it, made an offer on it, and they closed within like 6 days. So I have tons of success stories like that, Jay, right? Of it's just, and that's somebody who, what John will say is that, hey, I don't love making phone calls, Tyler. Like, it's not my thing. I'm sorry. But I love that I can use cell phone numbers out of a specific neighborhood and use slide dial just to drop the voicemails just like that.
Well, yeah, let me tell you two things. So my wife, Jessica, she sells real estate and she does not like making calls. She does not like making calls, but she's really super good at door knocking.
Right.
So what she did, she found out, I mean, she did the same thing. She found out she had she could call around. Okay. She didn't even use slide dial for that.
Right.
She would call around when she found out if somebody wanted to buy in a certain area, and she would find them a house. This is something I would never do because, I mean, honestly, I'm too lazy to do that, or I just don't think it's enough value for my time to do that. But she would, and she would love it. She wanted to serve her clients. She would make the calls, and she'd find a house for people to buy. She did this for her parents twice. I'm not kidding. Like, and they had a street of like 60 homes that they wanted to buy one in, and she found somebody that wanted to sell.
Yeah. So I mean, door knocking's a way to do it. You know, if you're in Lincoln, Nebraska right now, where I am, and it's 12 degrees out, door knocking might not be the best.
Dude, but here's the thing I want to tell real estate agents from what you just said. Okay. Yeah. Door knocking's good, but you know what? If you door knock on 4 people's doors in an hour, how many calls do you think you can make in that amount of time?
Exactly right.
A hell of a lot more calls. You leverage your time way better.
Right. And then that's why I like a company like, and there's lots of companies like Slide Dial, Slide Broadcast out there, Jay. But if you can create a very compelling voicemail, right? And it has to be true. It's, I mean, it's has to be a true story, but I mean, yeah, I have a great family that wants to move in the same neighborhood that their in-laws live in, right? I have a great family that wants to downsize. They're retiring, and your neighborhood is in their top neighborhood because you have all these big, beautiful trees, right? So, I mean, if you can create a captivating voicemail like that, and then using technology to help you to deliver that value, there's just lots of ways to have success.
I love talking to smart people like you because this gives me just another thing I can implement in my business that I didn't think about. So I use Cole to call absentee owners, and I have my team calling absentee owners because we're down in Florida. A lot of people, they buy property, it's a secondary home or whatever. Okay. But there's a lot of absentee owners. So what we'll do is we'll go into our, and you know this because you walked us through it, but we'll go into our realist tax records, and we'll pull up the non-owner occupieds within specific price point. And this is an action item. Real estate agents, write this shit down. There's so we'll pull up like within a specific price point, within a specific time period, zip codes, and that kind of stuff. And then we'll take that CSV, upload it to Cole, and then we'll have the cell phone numbers and the email addresses, and we'll send out an email, and then also we'll take those email addresses and we can upload those into Facebook to create a custom audience, and then have a campaign to absentee owners and create a funnel like that. Now that's a big project in itself. So I'm not telling any real estate agents, unless you're fully committed to doing that, don't do it, but use those email addresses, send out an email, and make the calls. So we'll call people, and our script is, especially in Florida being transient, you know, we call and say, hey, this is Jay. I'm local realtor and property manager in Florida. And I know you have a property down here. I'm wondering, do you use it often? Or have you thought about selling it or renting it out? Holy crap. I mean, what is easier than that? That's all you have to say. Or you can use slide dial. From what you're saying is, I mean, I probably should have known about this, but slide dial, it'll just leave an automatic message if I create the voice message, and it'll broadcast that.
Yeah, and the servers talk to each other, so the phone doesn't actually ring.
Wow.
It's just a new voicemail, and you know, there's studies that will show a lot of people they won't answer their phone anymore. If they don't, you know, a certain percentage will.
I never do.
Right, especially if it's a number you don't know.
Yep.
And people still check their voicemails, right? And so that's why the voicemails be very compelling.
Yeah.
But you can crank out 400 phone calls in 2.5 minutes, you know, that it takes to record a voicemail and hit send. So just another way to kind of think outside the box of, you know, leveraging data to make it actionable.
Hey, so let me ask you a question about the data between cell phone numbers and home phone numbers. I know that I can I know I can go into Cole and I know I can get the cell phones and the email addresses and everything like that. But of course, there's always, it's always not 100% accurate, like that's just the way life works. What's the accuracy between the home and the mobile phones, but not just that, more so, like, what are you finding? I don't want to call anybody's house. That's just me. But what are you finding, like, with the data and how people use that, and
great question. So we've been around forever. Data is what we do. We're working with tons of different data companies, compiling it, but it's not going to be 100%. It just can't, right? We're working with 130 million households across the country. So we'll have a landline for about everybody. But the issue that goes there is, and they're going to be really accurate because they come straight from the phone companies, cable companies, et cetera. But my wife and I are a perfect example. We have a landline. It's a VoIP through our cable company because it was free through a package deal. I've never plugged it in, right?
Yeah.
If you look in our product, the landline is it's the right phone number, but it just rings and rings and rings and rings because we haven't plugged it in 2 years been in our house, right? So that being said, a certain age range of people still answer their landlines, right? So my client in Don Bass in Michigan, he'll say, hey, I made $120K using Cole last year, calling neighborhoods. A lot of them were landlines because he just called into specific neighborhoods or as an older population. So that's what's they're still gonna answer, but under that age, most people won't ever answer their landline. Cell phones, we have a cell phone probably for 60% of all households. Some areas higher, some lower, some areas 2 cell phones, some houses, some 0. It's gonna be hit or miss, right? I hate giving a number for accuracy.
No, don't give a number for that.
Because
let me
a majority are gonna be correct. And then for the ones that aren't, Jay, it's a perfect script saying, oh, Jay, sorry about that. You're not at that house anymore. What neighborhood do you live in now, Jay?
I found out that it's about 60% for me, and here's the deal, man. It's all a numbers game, and Cole has been the absolute best source of information that I've been able to get anywhere. And to get 60% of those right is outstanding. Right. It is. So, like I hear agents that will complain about the accuracy of phone numbers that they get from different types of providers. And I'm like, how do you think that they're going to get everyone right? Like it's a numbers game.
Yeah. And that's the deal. You can't just call T-Mobile and say, hey, can we have your 200 million consumer file and update it once a month for us, right? That just isn't the world that you're living in. So you're working on data providers like people, if you go to get your oil change, and you put your cell phone number down, you put a warranty on your car, right? Like all that gets compiled and then we're trying to do our best to update it as much as we can. That's for sure.
Hey, let me ask you. So in order to make things easier, of course, it's always about leverage. And is there a dialer that you guys recommend or partner we work with?
All of them, Jay, all of them. I mean, I don't want to, we actually are synced up with almost all the major dialers in the right? So if you Google real estate dialers, we probably have an integration with all of them. There's some that are, that do triple dialing. There's some that do single line dialing. There's lots of advantages to everything. So what I'll tell people, Jay, is you can make a ton of phone calls by just picking up the phone and hand dialing. If you just lock yourself in a room for 3 hours, you can do a lot of damage, right? And I would recommend doing that first. Best in a dialer. Once you have your scripts down, that down, then go find a dialer and whatever it is, just learn it and use it, right? They all have their own unique advantages, right? Go find the one that works for you and put it into action, right? I know that's kind of a vague question, but it's kind of the same thing I say about CRMs. Which CRM do you prefer?
The one you use.
Right? I mean, because if you're not going to put your leads into a database, they don't do any good, right? Then just use index cards if you want to do that. But if you actually are going to put the time into making them actionable, then it's the one that you use. I don't know. So
yeah, that's it. I mean, you have to take action, and that's usually a problem. People get paralyzed with the overwhelming task of completing a project. Like, let's say, the dominating your farm in 8 steps, but you don't dominate your farm in 8 steps. You have the plan, but then you take step 1. You do step 1, then you do step 2. So it shouldn't be daunting. You should break it down. So, and
Absolutely.
you know what, I was also going to say that's another, with the landline thing, that's another testament of you need to know your ideal client, your avatar, and what that profile looks like. And you need to know if you're going to be calling a specific area, community, what that average age is going to be like. And if, and that's just an example, but if we're talking about age, okay, what do those people do? Where do they shop? Do they have landlines? Do they answer their cell phones? You have to know and get inside their head, because not everybody is the same. Nobody is the same. And when it comes to groups of demographics, they are all unique, and you can't treat one demographic like the other. You have to get inside their head.
Absolutely. Know your market, right? Know
Yeah.
your market.
Knowing, you know what, knowing the source too. And I don't know if this is something you talk about or think about much, but knowing your source is so important. Getting inside the head and knowing objections that you're going to get before you actually get them, so that you can address them in the things that you say to bring those objections out, and that so you can handle them.
Yeah.
You know, so like an expired listing and a for sale by owner, or somebody that you just met, or a buyer that comes to an open house, they all have different reactions. So a buyer that comes to an open house, you know, what do they not want to do? They don't want to give you their information.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no kidding. Why would they? They don't know you. You didn't offer any value.
Right.
So, you know, you have to know that that's an objection. So you have to be prepared to handle it before that objection even comes
Correct.
up.
You're exactly right. And you have to be prepared to have the right script
Yeah.
that works, that you're not just asking, hey, can I have your email address so I can send you an email twice a month for the rest of your life, right? It's just saying, hey, yeah, a lot of times we have buyers and sellers that want to connect in this neighborhood, and I'd love to, you know, put you on my email system where anytime a new listing happens, you're notified about it. You know, that's probably a better approach, and that's probably not the right script either. But you get
No. You're on point. So so for example, if somebody comes to an open house, many agents will say, I need to record your information for the owner so that the owner knows who came through. You can't say that shit, because what kind of value does that provide to the buyer that's coming into the open house? You have to approach everything with, what kind of value can I add for this person? So you need to approach it in that direction. But, you know, at the same time, every source is different, and everybody is feeling a different way, and they have different emotions in every part of the transaction, and you have to be able to anticipate it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Any parting words of wisdom that you can give, Ty, to the audience?
Yeah, you know, I mean, so again, 15 years at Cole, and a lot of the major coaching companies out there all recommend us, Jay. So I'm always at different events, right? And most events always have the most successful agents on stage, right? That they're being interviewed or in the front row. And what I'll say is, a lot of these guys, you know, that are making a lot of money, they know their systems, but they're taking action. And so, you know, meaning that they're just not waiting for the phone to ring. They're not just waiting for referrals. They're not just waiting for their uncle to give them a call to sell their property, you know, or a friend. They're taking action, and they're using data to make that happen. They're knowing their systems, and they're creating a sustainable business. And so, and they're treating their jobs as an 8-hour, it's a work day. It's not a hobby. It is a work day, and have a schedule to do all that kind of stuff. So that's a lot of parting words, but, you know,
take action and run your business like a business.
Yes. Good. Right.
Break down again real quick, if you don't mind, just going through those steps to dominate your farm, so that whoever's listening, all by memory. Write it down.
It's all by memory now. So, but dominate your farm. 1, find your farm. Figure out which one you want it to be and why it needs to be your farm. 2, right? So number 2, introduce yourself. A community event of some sort. You know, movies in the park, slushies, food drives, something like that. Right. 3, an email, a newsletter, you know, create an e-newsletter, grab any emails from the neighborhood, start providing value as the industry expert. I believe that's 3. 4 would be to alert neighbors of any sort of activity in a neighborhood, whether it's your listing, someone else's listing, open houses. That's another way to alert people. 5 would be upload the same list into Facebook for a custom audience. So now it's the Grant Cardone rule of 10 times in it. You're everywhere. Do that. I'd say 6 would be, by doing all this, you should be getting your own listings by now, at least 1 or 2. So not just leverage it, but exploit that listing. Right?
Yep.
So
That
I think
sounds
maybe
good.
6.
Yeah,
So,
that sounds good. And then rinse and repeat.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep doing it. Don't just do it once. Keep doing it. Stay on top of the lead gen.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Cool. Hey, Tyler, thank you so much, brother, for coming on. I know that everybody's going to receive a ton of value for this. Hopefully they took notes and implemented in their life. So, all right, guys.
All right. Good stuff. We'll talk soon. Make it a great year, everybody.
Okay. All right. See you. Thanks for being on, Tyler.